We built our real estate structure in the 1950s on the idea that there was only one superpower, only one country wealthy enough to be able to own property in the United States. And that was us. And then as the 1970s came and oil was discovered in the Middle East and oil was discovered in Latin America, and a few drug kingpins became, uber wealthy, people, other foreign nationals started realizing that they could take advantage of the same U.S. tax code to shelter their money. So property has always been something that the wealthy have been able to use to tax protect their assets. But now, instead of only Americans being able to buy American property, our law made it so that foreign nationals could also buy our property. And it makes sense because for a foreign national to buy an American property, they're bringing outside money into the U.S. economy. We want that. And then the United States always has the right to basically take eminent domain or some other policy or government structure to pull back the property and make it ours and take ownership away from a foreign national. So we've always had that kind of clause where we could just take it back if we wanted to and keep their money. We don't want to do that because then people are going to stop investing. But as long as people are investing, if they have the money, let them bring their money into our economy. That was all well and good when the United States was the most significant superpower in the world. Well, then enter 2000s, and now you've got China and their growing middle class, their center of manufacturing. They're not pouring money into the military-industrial complex to fight the global war on terror like we were. Instead, they can just develop new technology, the birth of Huawei, the birth of cellular technology, advancements in China, and the multitude of technologies that they're stealing from Europe and Latin America and making a fortune off of, right? Not to mention all of their shipping money and everything else. Now, you've got all these wealthy Chinese people. They are not going to buy property in China because they already know they won't own it. The Chinese party will own it. They could lose it at any time. So the safer option for their investment is to actually buy property in the United States, where there's some sort of legal protection of the investment, and the United States is naturally incentivized not to take that property back from them, because to do that would be to essentially forfeit all foreign investors in investing in property in the United States. We didn't anticipate that happening, and we couldn't change policy fast enough to stop it from happening, because what was happening from 2000 to 2020, the biggest economic boon for the United States that we had seen in like 50 years. Mm-hmm. Like it was, there's the kind of the running saying is that it was impossible not to make money in the United States between like 2005 and 2019. That so significant was our economic boom cycle that you could throw money at a wall and you would get a return on investment. So we got caught. We got caught with our pants down. Somebody used our policy against us, and now huge tracts of farmland and industrial properties. I mean, it's not just industrial properties. Man, there are mineral mines on U.S. soil that are majoritively owned and controlled by Chinese companies. Think about that.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, I read somewhere that the Chinese own the power plant that powers the biggest military base in Texas.
Through a shell company of a shell company of a shell company. Again, we taught them how to do that. That's American business practice. In the United States, you can open a business and your business is seen in the eyes of the law as a person. It has rights and protections like a person. We created that. They just take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I also read that one of the only loans that Chinese can apply for is real estate loans to buy property here in the U.S. So while you say it's individuals, China's obviously influencing its population to invest their money here in the United States. And then we go to Chinese law, which I'm not familiar with, but if they can just pull a business like that, couldn't they just pull somebody's property that was owned in a foreign country just like that?
It's harder to cross international lines like that. That's true. But the other thing is, we're not talking about normal Chinese, right? The average the average annual income in the United States is like $45,000 a year. The average annual income inside China is like $21,000 a year. So there are, by American standards especially, there are just tons of poverty-stricken Chinese. So in order to be a Chinese person that could actually afford to qualify for a real estate loan by American standards in the United States, you'd have to be a very wealthy Chinese person to even be able to do that. So it's not like they're incentivizing or encouraging their general population to buy property here. Instead, it's a wealthy subcomponent or a wealthy subsector of Chinese business people and elites that want to make a wise investment of their capital, their excess capital, so they put it into a U.S. property. And they put it into a U.S. bank, and they put it into a U.S. loan, which generates interest for Americans and boosts the American economy, right? We have to come to terms as a country with accepting that we are an economy-first capitalist country. And that's a good thing. I like that we're a capitalist country. I like that we put money first. I like that we drive economy as a core value. I like that. That's what we should do. But we should also have like a bubble of protection around that, where we can limit it to just American citizens. We can limit it to just individuals vetted by certain government departments as viable candidates to take a loan from a U.S. bank. We don't have to have the frickin' doors wide open to God and everybody and have, drug kingpins and human smugglers and oligarchs from Russia. We don't need to just let everybody buy our property. We can insulate ourselves. We just never took the steps to do it before, partly because we don't grow very fast. You were military, I'm military. There's a certain element in military where we call ourselves too dumb to quit. I'm sure you've heard that before. Mm-hmm. The United States is so punch drunk on wealth, we're kind of too dumb to quit. It takes a little bit of time, a little bit of reflection, a little bit of work for us to go back, review, and change our policies. And absolutely, we'd have to shake hands across the aisles in the Senate and the House to be able to agree to make some changes. China's gambling on the fact that we're too dumb to ever change our policies. We'll be too busy arguing with each other over the next president and who controls the next house.
Well, do you think they're influencing the division?
Oh, for sure. But it's not just them. I mean, think about every election in the world that we try to influence. Every one of those countries is going to try to influence our election too. I never understood why people got so upset in 2016 when there was evidence of Russian tampering in the presidential election. What the hell do people think happens in every election? Mm-hmm. There's tampering in every single election. All we saw in 2016 was that FBI got smart enough to catch the Russians doing it. That doesn't mean it didn't happen in 2012. Doesn't mean it didn't happen in 2020. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen in 2024. It happens every cycle. And it happens every midterm. And it happens at local levels too. The Chinese, the Russians, the North Koreans, the Iranians, they are all very, very heavily invested in shaping American politics. Not shaping American politics for a specific winner, but shaping American politics so it causes chaos. It's a core fundamental belief. It's a concept, a core concept in covert influence. That influence doesn't always mean that you're influencing a specific outcome. It just means that you're influencing the process. Causing chaos and division and infighting is 100% a planned outcome of covert influence. We're seeing it every day. We just don't call it that. We refuse to accept the idea that maybe our vote isn't only being influenced by American decision-making or even our own judgment. Maybe some of those TV ads that we're seeing, maybe some of those Facebook ads that we're seeing, maybe some of the articles that are being sponsored and put in front of us are not paid for by Americans.
Yeah.